live struggle legacy. It's a whole movement.
We're on.
Hey everybody, it's your boy MP, Live Struggle Legacy, and welcome to season 2 of the Live Struggle Legacy podcast. So real quick, if you haven't already done so, hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, that like button, comment, share, rate us if you're listening to us on a streaming platform. So it is a very special day.
Give me that big thumbs up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So with no further ado, we have a very special guest today. Our very first guest on the Live Struggle Legacy podcast, none other than HardWhite, the motherfucking J-Dub's dad, Scrap Daddy, Scrap Dizzle, Mr. What It Is, HardWhite.
Yeah, and also, hey, if you need a computer in your life, shop with me, aka the Computer God. Let's throw that one in there too, man.
Yes, sir. Scrap Dizzle, Scrap Daddy.
That's it.
So we got a lot to talk about today, y'all. We got a lot to talk about. So first of all, right, I'm gonna put it in your court in a minute, bro. I want to tell a couple stories, right? And so I'm gonna tell a couple stories about HardWhite, and then HardWhite's gonna share a couple stories about me, right? And we're keeping it real, y'all. We're having a good time on here, right? And hopefully providing some great entertainment and a little bit of comedy for you today. So, okay, now JJ and me both grew up in South St. Pete. I grew up in the kind of Coquina Key area. JJ grew up kind of Harbordale area, right? If you're familiar with St. Pete, you know they're not that far, really, just right down the street from one another. So we knew a lot of the same people. And I remember, so I'm going to tell you my first experience with JJ. So I knew who JJ was just through other people. I knew he was another guy that rapped, but I had never heard him rap. And all I knew is I'd see him all the time, and we didn't really know each other. We just kind of knew of each other, right? So we were in 9th grade Spanish, Ms. Lebo. Fine ass Ms. Lebo. Shout out Ms. Lebo. So, and the big homie Cleve was in the class. There was a bunch of people in the class that we still know to this day. Shout out Cleve if you're watching this. And you can remember this story too. Drop a comment in the comment section. So we're in Ms. Lebo's class, Spanish, 9th grade, right? And all of a sudden, the what do you call it? The AP Haddon, right? When Mr. Haddon, the AP, the assistant principal, walked in with 2 full uniformed St. Pete police officers, right? And so the first thing they say is Michael Maiello. So of course I turn my head. I don't think he's here, Michael Maiello. And then of course I want to say it was Cleve. Damn, Cleve. Maybe not. No, maybe not. But somebody that I knew was like looked at me. Damn, bro. Damn, man. You just gonna dry stitch like a motherfucker, throw me under the bus, right? I mean, not like Miss Lebo didn't know, but anyway. So they pick me up, right, and they take me to the principal's office. And when I get to the principal's office, there's 2 Secret Service agents. So I'm like, what the fuck? And they show me a picture of this dude that I recognized from gym class. But of course, live by, die by. They say, do you know this person? Never seen this person before in my life, sir. Well, he knows you. So to give you a little backstory, the kid, I can't remember his name. He's totally irrelevant at this point in life. But we were in gym class. We were in the gym at Lakewood, and he pulled out a big wad of cash, and he just starts handing out money to everybody. And I see him like, damn, okay, player, So he's like, you want some? And I'm like, don't mind if I do. So he gives me $40, and then he's like, I just want you to know, be careful where you spend it because it's fake. I printed it on my computer. And I'm thinking like, okay. Honestly, I'm gonna be real. I'll tell you what I thought. I thought he was just like a rich kid that didn't have any friends, and like that he had a bunch of money. And I thought it was real money. I really did. It looked real, felt real, spent real. You know what I mean? Like so now this was probably 2, maybe 3 months prior to, And then I guess so with the counterfeit money thing, he was facing all these serious charges, and they said, well, if you can tell us where every penny went and we could trace it all, we'll give you like a lesser punishment or some shit. So he told on me. Anyway, long story short, I don't know how I got to JJ, but JJ somehow knew what the lick was. Of course, I'm sure people were requiring, and it's not every day somebody gets pulled out of class with 2 uniformed officers and, you know, there was assistant principal to go see the Secret Service, right? So every time after that, I see JJ. I wouldn't even see JJ. I'd hear him from way down the hall. Counterfeit! Every time. And I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't stand this motherfucker, man. You know, of course, me, ain't no counterfeit about me, bro. Ain't no counterfeit about me, bro. So that's one story, right? But then, like, you know, of course, we start seeing each other more often, and then I become a little less uptight about it. Then it becomes a joke, like, yeah, jokes, right? So, and that was kind of like our little thing, how we got to know each other. And I don't know how we linked up, but some kind of way we linked up. And so JJ would go out to Liquid Blue in Clearwater. And they used to do Freestyle Tuesday, right? It was Freestyle Tuesday.
Yeah, I believe it was Tuesday. Yeah, it was right? Tuesday nights, yeah.
And so it was a freestyle contest. Anybody could get on it. And then the winner either got $50 or a bottle of Moet. Well, man, my dog JJ. So anyway, I heard JJ could spit, right? And we might have spit at lunch or something like that a few times, maybe like Burn in a little freestyle session, but like I had never really seen him spit. And like, you know, you have artists that maybe can freestyle in class or in the car passing the joint around, but you put them on that stage and they clam up. Shit, not my dog Hard Whistle. So we go out there to Liquid Blue, and I'm not gonna lie, this is when, not that I ever didn't respect my bro, but this is when my respect went to a whole nother level, because he killed that shit. He killed that. And if you know me as an artist, like I'm more of a storyteller. You know, I like to like kind of zone out with the door closed, get alone when I do my writing. I'm more of a writer. I'm not really a freestyler. I mean, I would freestyle, but that wasn't my thing. But Hard Whistle, that was his thing. I would go out there and you know, basically shit the bed on stage, just to be all the way real. And JJ would kill that shit. I'm talking about hands down, wasn't even no competition. And every time they'd be like, do you want $50 or do you want that Moet bottle? And he would always be like, I'm gonna get that $50 and buy what I want. He would say that. About 3 minutes later, I seen the man, they say I only got 10 minutes to drink it, dog. Shit.
Those were the nights. Shout out to Fetty and the Motel Boys, man. I remember we were still in high school, because I remember that was late nights. That back then the bars weren't open past 2. We closed at 2 back then. There wasn't no 3. So I remember we get downtown Clearwater on Fort Harrison. We get out of Liquid Blue at 2 o'clock, stumble and drive with one eye all the way back to St. Pete. Get in bed by like 3, and then have to be at school in first period at 7 o'clock in the morning, sweating alcohol with a VIP wristband on 17 years old, 16, 17, 18 years old with a VIP wristband hung over in class. Man, that was some fun times.
Man,
I love that stage though. That Liquid Blue stage was something different, man. It had that, I don't know if you guys remember that. This just to the old heads out here, you young bucks aren't going to know about this. Liquid Blue had that elevated stage up there. Yes. You had to walk up the stairs and go around and up there, so it was actually like you were like a Greek god performer. You were standing up and just looking down at everybody. I am here now. So that's kind of what sparked it and what elevated. So yeah, man, I love freestyling. I like that pressure being on me. And I've always been like that. So I mean, if you know me from when I was a kid, my first job, we worked and did a little hustle together with telemarketing. Yes, sir. And I just got this switch that the words just flow, man, and I can anticipate the counterparts, especially on the phone. I used to love it. I used to know what's going on. But Liquid Blue, man, that's 20s plus years ago.
Man, don't even say that. Bro.
I did. I had to do the math. I literally had to think. It took me a second to start doing math. I'm like,
I'm telling you, yeah, because I was 17, Doug.
Yeah, shout out King JB. 17. You're old too, my brother. Shout out King JB. Shout out Tony Gaudiosi was out there at Liquid Blue. Shout out Tony. Fetty and the Motel Boys. Yeah. Oh, man, yeah, those were some good times, man.
Good times, man. Good times that you know, they don't make them like that anymore.
Man, I'm glad, because right now, if you offer me $50 or a bottle of Moet at 2 a.m, I'm calling the cops because I'm somewhere I'm not supposed to be. I'm supposed to be in bed asleep at 2 o'clock in the morning. Don't offer me $50 or a bottle of Moet. This has got to be a dream or something. I'm in the wrong place. Get me back home.
So, bro, I told a couple stories. I know you got some stories.
I do. So we're going to go back to the story, the how it all started. I remember I was listening to I'm from the Birds, shawty. That's where I stayed.
Yes.
So that song, man, is really what kind of crunk us up. My first rap that I ever wrote was actually a rewrite. I actually took the words of "To Live and Die in L.A." and then changed it to "Live and Die in St. Pete." And all I did, it was like a jam pony, but I wrote it. You know what I mean? I just went and changed the ending words. So it's kind of the introduction. But my actual first time hearing an actual recorded song by anybody was when you guys did that. And man, I remember hearing it. The first thing I heard was, "This is so dope." And then it's like if you were the movie Home, where you could see the guy changes his emotions, you could see his colors change. You could see me go from, man, this is dope, to, damn, why am I not on this song? Where was I at? Where was HardWhite? Why wasn't JJ invited? Where is JJ? And that brings me to my first story I wanted to tell you about. Is so that very next day I ended up calling Terry, and I'm like, "Terry, I got a song." I didn't even have the song written or nothing. I was like, "I'm getting in the studio. I'm going to record." I know Terry's got a studio. So I called Terry and I booked the session, and ended up writing it in class that day, and ended up getting over to his house with not $1 in my pocket. I didn't even think about any money. I just was like, I got to get a damn song recorded. So I show up over to Terry's, and I record the song. I think I might have got it all done in an hour. It might have been 2, but whatever it was, Terry's like, "All right, this is what it's going to be. You got the money?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So, and this is one time I couldn't talk my way out of it. The sales skills went out the window. He's like, "That." I said, "It's at the house. I'll bring it to you. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll bring it over here to you." He's like, "No, it's all right. I'll give you a ride to the house. I'll bring you over there. We'll go get it." So here's me without $1 in my pocket, no money at my house. We're going home to nothing. I'm poor. I'm broke. I got nothing. So I'm in the car, and no cell phone. We're talking 99 or something way back then. So I'm like, man, what am I going to do? So I walk in the house. And I remember going into my mom in the kitchen. I'm like, "Hey, Mom, what's up?" She's like, "I need a favor, Mom." She's like, "What's up?" I was like, "I need to borrow some money." She's like, "You've never asked me to borrow money ever in your life. What do you need to borrow money for? Tell me the truth." I'm like, "I just recorded a rap song and I got to pay the guy that recorded it for me, and he's sitting outside the car right now. Can you give me the money so I can go pay him?" She's like, "You went and recorded a what?" I'm like, "It's a rap song. It's here. We listened to it. Can you go get me the money?" And she went and wherever she went and grabbed that money, handed it to me, and I walked outside and paid Terry. So it could have been a way worse story to tell you right there. But Terry got his money. I got the song recorded, and I learned my mom was about that life down for anything that I needed. And just tell her the truth, and she's got my back.
That's love, bro. That talk about support.
And you know what? I'm not even too scared to say it. Mom's had to shoot me another 50 last week. Shout out to Mom Dukes for shooting me a 50 last week when I needed her. That's my dog right there. Mom's always comes through in the clutch, man.
That's what's up, man.
But yeah, that was the ignition going into that song. Kind of put it up, because like you said, man, we would do the freestyle stuff, and we'd be at the parties. That was kind of how I liked it. That was my, I wasn't the surfing guy, you know what I mean? I wasn't I wasn't on the popular. I was the kid from the hood, but he could spit, and you could say anything, and you could throw words out, and I'd catch your word, and I'd just keep going and not stop. So we'd be at the parties, and there'd be a lot of intermixing. And I remember we would go to the Skyway parties with the kegs. Shout out to Donnie B, because me and Donnie B was a beast too. Because if
with the freestyle,
me and Donnie man. Shout out to Donnie. Donnie is the man. Yeah. Donnie is probably one of the most, if not the most talented people I've ever worked with personally.
Yes, sir.
He literally that White Boy song that me and him did, which is by far the best song I've ever done, is 99% Donnie Bravo. He wrote that. I sent him the beat. He's like, "Let's make some music." I'm like, "All right, bro. Here's a beat." So I shot him the beat, and I was like, "Oh my God,
man, we got to get Donnie on the
we
joint.
We got to get Donnie in here." But yeah, man, Donnie was an animal. But Donnie was an animal back then. Donnie was Bogey's white boy that they would push up in the front at the keg party, and there's hard, you know what I mean. So me and Donnie, by the time we were done freestyle, we just were like, "Dude, we got to give the people what they want."
Yes.
But yeah, me and Donnie had some good battles over the days, man. We had some good shows, do a lot of shows together. I think I don't know if you guys remember, there was the old 50 Cent and Kanye did the Kanye verse 50 when they released their albums, and they went head to head, and they did the whole whoever loses is going to retire thing. So right at that same time, I remember one of the biggest shows me and Donnie threw, we did, I think it was at Page 2, it might have been at Boomers, but it was Donnie B versus HardWhite. And that thing was jumping, bro.
Yeah.
That thing was swinging, man. Shout out to Donnie.
I think I was home for that.
You probably were home for that one, man.
What was that, maybe 06?
Probably so, man.
07?
06.
So real quick, bro, because I don't know if because we kind of jumped right into the song. So the song that he's talking about, If You're Not Privy, it's the first song that I ever recorded. And you made me remember something that we didn't talk about from the first podcast, because you said I'm not with all that surfer shit and all that. I wasn't a surfer guy, right? But you talk about how people transform and people evolve, right? I mean, people change, right? So I'm only saying that to say, so the song we're talking about is the first song I ever recorded. And if you listen to the previous podcast from season one of the earliest podcasts, I talk about the song. It was called Business First. And AG the Hustler, shout out to AG the Hustler, he had a little like AOL America Online microphone for like chatting. We used it to record. He had a beat that he ripped off the internet, and he hollered at me last minute and asked me to bring a couple homies, and we made this song, right? But the interesting thing was I watched this man go through a transformation. I'm talking about AG, like almost overnight. Like 1 minute he was like this surfer dude. He had like the flip haircut with the shave underneath, and then like literally the next day, he got, the fitted cap with the throwbacks. He became like the throwback king. But where you can say what you want about this man, but where I have the utmost respect about him, and JJ can vouch for this, and I think I said this in that last podcast, was this man would hit these books, but mainly like Source and Hip Hop Magazine and Double XL, and he would just soak them up. And then the next thing you know, this man's engineering. He's making beats. He's actually putting together like good music. Like, I mean, decent music, not bad music. So we got to give respect where it's due. But to JJ's point, I do feel like he should have been on that song. And I'll never forget, he was salty about it. I'm not gonna lie. He would talk shit, and I could tell like he was joking, but there's that little bit of like, yeah, man, I was supposed to be on that.
That was a lot of hidden. I put just enough joke in there to hide the pain.
And I felt it, and I would always say like, listen, bro, it was his mic, it was his. I would have had you on the joint, because me and JJ were long overdue to make music, right? So I want you to talk about that maybe from your perspective, because I shared that in another podcast. But before we get into all that, real quick, I just want to know. So, like, what I feel like you answered one of my questions already when you told me how you wrote one of your first raps, right? So I just want to get into a little bit more of like how you got into hip hop, who your influences were, right? But before we get into that, I just want to share something that I never shared on this platform, and it's something that you and I have in common that I didn't even know until just a moment ago. Now, you said you wrote your first song off a Tupac song. You just kind of like used it as a template. Well, I learned how to count bars through Tupac songs, and because I knew Tupac stuck with that template. He had 8-bar choruses, he had 16-bar verses. So how did I know what 16 bars were? Well, I would play a Tupac verse, I would start rapping when he started rapping, and then I knew that I had to stop rapping when he stopped rapping, and that was 16 bars. So just an interesting connection right there in the early stages of songwriting, where we both kind of shared that common.
Shout out to Tupac.
Shout out to Tupac. Yes, sir. Tupac. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so Tupac was actually, man, I was the guy in '96 after he got shot that he was still alive and he was coming back. I was the guy that had Machiavelli 2 through 8 burnt, ready to sell. Man, and I made my own covers for him, and I hit the streets, and I would rewind that Machiavelli when I had it on tape, and I would just rewind and just play. I remember just playing it back and forth, and just if right now every time somebody's like, "Hey, gun to your head, one song you got to do where you got to do every single word or your toast." I play any fucking Tupac song. Yeah, but anyone. But the main one is like, "If I Die Tonight." I could probably recite that backwards. But yeah, man, Tupac got me into that. That's around the same time when that whole thing where he left, when he was gone, and just I really dug into music at that same time. It just happened to be when we all that same time crossing. It was 96, 97, 98. So that, I mean, what does 98, 99 with that first song, right?
Yeah.
98, 99. Yeah, man. So it's, yeah, shout out to AG too. I don't want to get past that. The things I'm going to forget because AG put together a lot of plays and put me in, got all the music that I did for my first mixtape and the second mixtape only happened because AG was out there making plays and had I don't know if you remember, he had that Jersey shop in Maxi Mall with the hardwood floors.
Doing his thing, yes.
And, you know, whatever else he was doing, I don't know where all that other money was falling from. But, you know what I mean? There was some money that was coming around, and AG was putting it, every single dollar went into music. It was, guess what we're getting this week? And he'd get excited like a kid, bro. Like, this is what we're getting. He's like, all right, this is what we're doing. He said, but look, we got to go hit these streets. You know what I mean? But none of me being active happens if that doesn't happen. So shout out to my dog AG for being the pockets back then, man, because we needed him, man, and he put us in a lot of good spots. But yeah, man, I mean, it's, dude, so where's the whole other part that we're leaving out, man? That
but how did you actually get it? Was it just listening to pop and just wanting to, I mean, how did you actually get
into actually doing music?
Yeah, exactly.
Being from Harbordale and being like not just from Harbordale, but being within arm's reach and seeing the Paper Chasers.
Yes, sir. Ex-con.
Yeah, man, and seeing it and just being there, man. And I just knowing that I had the talent in the freestyle, I don't know, man, it just kind of morphed out. But at the same time, man, high school, man, that was it. I knew that was my thing when we were at the parties. That's how I could get. That's my little niche, and that's kind of just how it started. Was just knowing that I was good and just rolling with it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hell yeah. So now I know you got some stuff you want to share, but I just want to. So I would like to know two things, right? Like a high point and a low point in your music career, and through that low point though, I want to know what you had to hold on to keep you going and not stop. And because you know, music costs money. You know, and if you don't know, well, if you wonder why certain people make it that maybe have mediocre talent at best, and then other people that you would think should be the next #1 recording artist, you know, Billboard, whatever, you don't see anything from them. A lot of times that comes from budget, right? So I'm only saying that to say people give up so easily, and you stayed in the game a long time, bro, and I still ain't counting you out, just for the record. You know what I mean? So
you know what though? You know why I was able to? So here it is. Let's answer your two questions first.
Yes,
it's real funny because I was thinking in my head this whole time, and it's really crazy that both of those answers have a common theme: the high and the low.
Yes, sir.
And it's going to be Janice Landing is going to be the common theme here. So we're going to go first part. I'm going to start with, everybody always says get the bad news out of the way first. So we'll go ahead and get the low part. Low part is I did, a lot of people will remember this, is I went all in. And this is when I had some good money coming in from telemarketing and other ventures that I was involved in. So I had some extra money to play with. So I was always into the throwing shows, but it was always a club. There wasn't really any overhead. There wasn't much investment other than me paying the DJs, getting the flyers made. It was really low cost. I mean, I'm all in at like $600. But I remember my first time that I actually went and pulled some double-digit thousand plays. I threw the Summer Jam Best of the Bay. I got to find out what year this was. Chief made the commercial. We even did Bright House commercials for it. Yeah. And I remember I had Tom G. This is when Javon Black was at the peak. This was and I had, who else was it? I had Tom G. Strizzo, Javon Black, and a couple other people. But I also did a contest where we gave away music videos, and it was amazing. And we had shout out to 98.7 back then. We actually got that day of. We got a live on air shout out from Tom G because he was coming in to perform. Yeah. And I remember that feeling I had at the gate, and I'm looking, the gates opened at 6, and I remember standing there at 6 and looking, and there was 20 to 30 people standing in line to come to an event that I had. And then I heard this crackling in the background. And then I look up, and out of nowhere, those beautiful skies, blue skies everywhere, and out of nowhere, here comes all the black clouds. And they come and sit right on top of Janice Landing, and from 6 until 8:30, it did nothing but dump water straight down on Janice Landing. There was perfect blue, green skies everywhere else, but right on top it just rained. And the event that we had was really, I'm pretty good at logistics. That's always been my good thing. I'm good at scheduling, keeping things at a pace, knowing marks where I got to have this much done by this time. And there was just the amount of people that we had in the contest to get through and to get to the artist, that all of them were paid artists, and all of them got their back in when they stepped foot there. That's the one thing you can check anybody on this planet. Money's in hand as soon as you walk in. So yeah, it was a pretty big major loss. It was headed to do some really good things. I covered a lot of the costs with the entry fees, but I remember losing that and hitting it and just being like, man, you can plan a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather. And I remember that loss just put me into a spot where I already had plans of what I was going to do with the profit. I didn't have any plans of what's going to happen when I don't even make close to my money back, and now I don't have money to move forward. Like, I don't have to. You're scrounging around. I probably even had to shout out to moms. I probably even had to hit moms up for one of them 50s. You know what I mean? So it was a real low point for me, and like, dude, why am I even doing this? Like, what is because I was always stuck in between. That's my thing, is I was never just was the artist. And the reason I started getting into the promotion side is nobody was fucking booking me. I wasn't getting a show. Nobody's calling HardWhite to get on a show. I was like, all right, well, how do I get on a show? I fucking throw the show. You make the show. You are the show.
You know, I know.
Yeah, man. So that's how I started getting into that. But, well, that brings me back to the I guess I want to say my high point is, shout out to Terry and the Stylish fam. There was a good run, man, where they were literally the hottest thing, not only in the city, but probably in Florida. And they had a stage show that right now I would put up against any stage show by any artist from anywhere. Dancers, choreography, every artist working together in sync. They would actually go and train and have rehearsals, and 10 artists together at once. That's a lot of egos, and shout out to Terry and all them boys for keeping it together and making it happen.
And the fashion, bro. Stylish Entertainment, Stylish fam. The t-shirts, the airbrush t-shirts.
Shout out to Dion. We were wet. That was the era. Yes, so back then it was always pay to play to get onto as it probably still is, to get onto the bigger shows like at Janice and Lil Wayne's coming in town. Well, cool. That's the way it was. Well, back when we started getting onto these shows, Terry and them were getting on, and he's like, "Hey, man, but there's 10 of them, so you can kick out." I was like, "How about this, Terry? Let's make a deal. You're getting a 10-minute slot. Give me 2.5 minutes at the front. I'll pay half. You guys can split the other half." Terry's like, "Okay, that sounds good." Because two things, I was nowhere up to the caliber of them boys, but me going on before them didn't bother anything, because they were going to come on right behind me and light it up, and nobody's even going to know any different. So there was a stretch of probably about a week, and in that week we opened up for Lil Wayne twice and Boosie and Jeezy, all within 8 days. And I really those 8 days were probably some of my favorite times. And some of that footage is still online. The Boosie show it's the one where I came out with my chef hat and the apron.
Yes, sir.
So there's still some footage out there of that stuff. But yeah, we went to Firestone and did Lil Wayne. Had that famous shirt of me with the baking soda on it, the yellow from MySpace. That was actually opening up for Lil Wayne and Young Jeezy at the Sun Dome or Yingling Center, what it is now. And I remember coming off stage, and I believe it was Slick Pulla came up and was like, "Boy, turn around right now." And he made me turn around. He's like, I told y'all what it said. That's his name on the dance." So that was some good times. So that would probably be the high point, is being in front of a whole lot of people and getting that feeling of, damn, this is what coming out in front of this if you did it consistently. Because it was only a week, and we had 5 shows, dude. And it was fun.
And that's the dream, bro. That's what we do it for. You know, if you really are about your music, you live for these stages. You live for these crowds. It ain't even about clout. It's about connection. It's about energy. And it's about taking your passion and sharing it with other passionate people. So for me, that's what it's about. And I feel like you can relate to that.
No, absolutely, man. And it's just, I've learned to keep that same thing, and just, music's always going to be a part of me. And you know that. I joke all the time, artist formerly known as, but, it might not be coming out rapping about what we used to and doing stuff like that, but I'll always be on the creative side of things. You never know, man. I might start making jingles for kids. I kind of just turned that creative side into everything that I did with music, and now I'm trying to figure out how to transfer everything and just keep that same momentum and transfer it into the projects that I'm doing now, like the Autism Acceptance All Stars and different things like that. So,
man, listen. So I want to get into that. I want to get into all of that. You see, I'm representing today.
I like it.
So, but before we get into your newer ventures and things that you have going on, you know, as an individual, bro, I just got to give you your flowers on a couple different levels, bro. So, okay, when I first was getting ready to leave to go away to prison, and I knew I was going away, I threw a show. I spent bread on this show. I got Briscoe, right, from Opalaka, who had just signed to Young Money. He was actually like super hot. And then I had Frank Linney, who was like the #1 underground artist in Florida at the time. And then I got Big Bud, who a lot of people may not know of, but Big Bud was the shit. Like, really should have been a lot bigger than what he was. I'm strong. If you ain't heard it, you don't know what you're missing. But anyway, so I had these artists, and I made a big mistake to try to throw a show on Memorial weekend when everybody was going down to Miami. But my logic was, well, you know, everybody down in Miami, what about the people that are not going to Miami? They need something to do. So I tried to throw the show, but to be all the way real, like Tampa PD really fucked it up. It's like they anticipated it to be bigger than it was. They were like blocking the roads off. They were harassing people. And so people were like, no, I'm not going to this police ass shit, right? Because, you know, they knew what time it was. The previous show I had at the same place got too much attention. And then they were like, no, you're not about to do this again out here, not in Tampa. So anyway, I'm saying that to say, very few people showed, and even like one of the homies, you know who you are, I ain't gonna call you out, but pulled up and saw nobody was there. It was, oh man, we out. I'm gone. Like, he was not about to show. I'm like, yeah, bro, but you know, you need to help me make this shit look thick so other people want to come, right? But JJ pulled up, was right there in the front. And the crazy thing is, it was like when we wasn't even all that cool over some dumbass little C-Mill beef or whatever, right? And there wasn't no beef. It was just like we weren't on like the best of terms, and JJ still showed up and still showed love and like paid the full price at the door type shit. Like, I mean, support. So that's one story from right before I went in. But when I got out, I've said this in other podcasts and you heard it, but I gotta say it in this man's face. I gotta give this man his flowers, bro. So JJ threw me a coming home show. And I'm gonna be real, I spent a lot of money on music, throwing shows, paying artists, doing like what he said. I'm not trying to pay to play, I'd rather buy the stage, right? But all those shows, with maybe a couple of exceptions here and there, every show that I threw myself, though, I didn't lie, was a loss. People might have showed up, might have looked like I made money, but it was a loss. The first profit that I ever put in my pocket from a show were actually in the black was my coming home show. JJ threw it, put together the flyer, got Chief with the camera to do like a documentary type of deal. But not only that, he had just dropped his first like official album, right? That was actually on streaming platforms, right? You know, all this man got tons of music, but put me on his actually like debut, like all streaming platforms album, and put me on the, in my opinion, I know this is debatable, but in my opinion, the two hottest songs on that album. And I'm not saying that because I was on them.
They're two of my top three on there.
Featuring Ryan Kendrick. I mean, shout out Ryan Kendrick. We would love to have you on the show, homie. So we're gonna send you this. But you know, for me, having just did all this time coming out, not having money for studio time or any of this shit, and having JJ bless me up like this, listen, bro, love and respect. You know what I mean? Like,
this is the least I could do, man. Because there's a lot of things that I'm leaving out. I got my GED in the county jail, and the only reason I got it is because I got this mysterious letter with a $50 money order that just happened to come the day before I was supposed to go take this test. They were about to tell me I couldn't take it, and they called me and like, well, I ain't got no money in my account. They're like, well, yeah, you do. You got $50. I'm like, they go, yeah, by the way, here you go. I got this letter. So I actually would have never even graduated without that. So shout out to that. But no, every time I went, there was some legal stuff I had going on back at that time. And every time that I got back out, I would come back out butt naked with no money, nothing. And every time my man put me on with a bottle of VSOP and a quick $100 here, man, go get you some shoes, man. We would always go. I still remember, man, we got out one time. It was the show I heard you talk about. Is when the show with the last damn show was at Tropicana.
Yeah.
And we had actually after party show that was supposed to be at the new spot that never actually opened. The old
Snow Pete.
Yeah.
Snow Pete was, yeah.
Yeah, so it was, I forgot what the name of the place was. It's the old Extra Innings behind Excalibur and whatever, One South, whatever, the backside of that whole thing. We were out there warming up on a stage that didn't even have a balcony. You remember that?
The sound check, yeah.
I'm like, dude, the show's in 2 days. You guys don't even have a rail on the balcony. So we ended up doing it at One South, but that was good. But no, man, I had to, man. Like, I should have been more involved while you were gone, and but it's, man, I'm not good at that kind of thing, man. So I didn't send no kites up, but I definitely made sure down here to put my print and made sure to screen free MP on a few different avenues to make sure that I had the voice rolling and going. So you can't screen free MP and then when MP gets back, you're like, hey man, he's back. No man, let's get you. That was actually kind of when you came back was when I had a little bit. I was in that cushion of, I've got this all figured out. I've got the logistics. I know where everybody's at with the clubs. I know the lines. I know what time is the live stream on the radio, so you know where to go, where you need to be. But I was also at that scooting down to where my son was just born, and I was not having that free time. So that's kind of where I got into that rundown with Dub, and I was like, here, yeah, banger. But it was
shout out Dub B.
Shout out Dub. Dub murked that thing, man. Any of my songs on that album, if you take off the feature and the artist that's on there with me, I'm dead. You take off Ryan Kendrick, Dub, and Donnie B off my album, there is no album, man.
All right, now, because I'm sleeping on a couple bangers that y'all ain't heard yet, and they're gonna pop out on you, and JJ come through and murk these shits.
Oh, Make a Mess. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, big mess.
I forgot about that one, man. But yeah, man, that show when you came back, man, I was like, all right, let's do it. This is the momentum. Let's do it. And the reason, want me to tell you a good part of the reason why that one was in the black, because I learned you need a pit bull that you can trust at that door with the money. Because when you do shows and everybody's there because they're your homie and everybody wants to get in free. But I learned to pay everywhere I went. I always put money in the register. You're on a list. I don't give a fuck. Here's your money. Put it in because I don't want that. This is a production. People are not here. There's people that got to get paid. So shout out to Polka, Jessica.
Yeah, I was just thinking that's the front door and held it down.
Zero games about that cheese and doesn't give a fuck who you know and who you're with.
Yeah.
And definitely is like a sister and a person that I can trust and not have to worry about it being a dime short. So shout out to Polka making sure because
she held it down too for real.
Anybody else at that register, it might have just been a flat line. So
yeah.
But no, that was a good show, man.
But there's there's no better thing to come home to. You know what I mean? Like I talked about in the last couple episodes of the last season about how you come home and like people want to take you to the strip club and like pay for dances and all that. Yeah, it's like that's cool. But at the end of the day, I wake up with a hangover. You know what I mean? I'm broke, no money, sad because I can't get in the studio. And what my dog do? Put me in the studio. Help me see through my dreams, like put me on the stage. Like I couldn't have asked for more. Like nobody could have given me a better coming home gift, like straight up. So
it feels good. I'm glad I was able to do that, man. See,
straight up.
And that's the thing I need to do more is use my gift, not necessarily having to be me as the person that's the focal, and just use all the other logistical things that I'm good at to kind of make other things happen. Because so many things happened tonight. A lot of people had a good time. It was a great show. Everybody came out supported. And it was just, it got me back into my groove. Because to be honest with you, I was slipping. I kind of started falling back. I wasn't doing as much of the promo stuff. It was really hard it just got really oversaturated with, there's a local show with 12 local artists on it 4 nights a week. You know what I mean? So it got kind of heavy to where I kind of started to fall back, but that actually got that fire rolled a little bit. Man, I was thinking about that Fresh Out of Fans with Ryan Kendrick and HardWhite. That was a couple days after you got out. It wasn't that long.
Literally, I was fresh. You couldn't be more fresh out.
You can hear it. Fresh Out the Feds.
Fresh Out the Feds with Ryan Kendrick and HardWhite.
That was a gangster.
So, okay. We're going to segue, but I just want to talk about what an intelligent and resilient, innovative motherfucker you are, right? We got to give flowers. That's what this is about, right? So, you know, JJ and I, we dabbled in some things that we're not going to talk about in this podcast. That right? And you know, made it out. Nothing serious. But I mean, you talk about being, what's the word I'm looking for? Just innovative in the hustle. This is one hustling motherfucker. So, and I mean legitimate hustle. So, and when I was down bad and I caught a state case and I couldn't get a job anywhere, this man got me on with the telemarketing, running the call centers to the point where, you know, they would have hired anybody as long as JJ said. You know what I mean? And so this man got me a job at least 2 separate times at 2 different call centers, right? And then, you know, getting burned out on that and finding a whole nother hustle. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. Tell us a little about Scrap Dizzle, Scrap Daddy.
Absolutely. So this is another, speaking of transitions, life's just a bunch of transitions. There's always a door you got to walk through. There's always one point. There's always a dot that before this dot was one thing, and after the dot it's there. It's never. Sometimes it's not a immediate change. Sometimes it's gradual as you're going both ways. But there's always one single spot. And it was probably one of the most life-changing things, because when I was in the telemarketing thing from the time I was 16. I was in OJT. Quick little thing about the telemarketing. Get into that. So the telemarketing at 16, I worked at Suntasia on the beach, which is now a taco bus. But I came in my first day and started crushing it. The average rep was doing about 20 sales, and I started doing about 35 the very first day I started working, because I did a couple tweaks to their script. But I knew it was a legal contract, and I knew there were certain things that you had to say, but all this other shit was fluff. And as long as you got the contract part right, you could make sure you do it. So I didn't ask anybody permission. I just started going and doing my own script, and then I did, when it came to the contractual parts where they had to agree to billing, all that was exactly how it needed to be. And I remember the owner coming to me and being like, "Hey man, you changed the script up." And I'm like, "Yeah, but all the contractual parts are absolutely fine, right?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Here's the other 3 programs we're doing. Can you go write my new script for that?" And that was 16. We did an OJT, and I remember we did this class, and it was budgeting your check. And back then, I mean, dude, what was the average pay back then? $6.50, $7.50, $8 an hour or something. Yeah. But I was killing it in telemarketing, and we got paid every week. So the project we had to do for on-the-job training class, if you don't know what OJT is, so you would go into class for a couple periods in the morning, and then you'd leave and go to work, and while you're still in school. So this is so funny. So I remember that we had to bring in a copy of our paycheck, and then we had to, he said, "Here's your thing. You find out what you'll make for this month, and then show me how you're going to budget your money. What are you going to do with the money?" Well, it just so happens that the check that I brought in was for like $1,300 for the 1 week, because I fucking destroyed it and just smashed it. I'm like 17 or 18, or had to be 17 at this time. So then he's like, "If you have a weekly check, multiply it by 4. So everybody else's weekly check's like $150, $200, and my check's like $1,300. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make $5,200 this month. I'm going to give $2,000 to my mom. I'm going to do this and that. So we all turned it in, and I was just excited. I couldn't wait for him to turn it back in and then try to and question me about it and tell me I did it wrong. And of course, he's like, "Well, everybody got it except for a couple people. Some people took their whole month check and multiplied it by 4. I'm like, I said, "Hold on." I said, "Was it me?" He's like, "Of course it was you. That $1,300, you don't get $1,300 every week." I said, "No, you're right." And it was the following week. I said, "This week I got $1,100. And he's like, he comes over and he grabs my check. He's like, "You got this? This is a week's worth of work." And I'm like, "Yep." And he's like, "You make this every week?" I said, "No, I'm just killing it. It's a new program right now." I was like, "I average anywhere from $700 to $800 on a usually a good week." He's like, "You make $1,300 last week and $1,100 this week." He came to my job the very next day to make sure everything was legit, and walked around. I saw him with the owner walking, looking into me. He ended up quitting, and 2 weeks later, I don't know if you guys remember, I think it was Mr. O'Deal, the OJT guy.
Yeah.
He ended up skating out of there. Well, that's the telemarketing. I had a good run. I was the man. I would run call centers that had 140 people. I was that guy standing on a desk, unlocking the door at 7 a.m., getting everybody in, making sure everything's good, throwing a meeting, and leaving at 7 p.m. and locking the door. And I was a beast, man. I was really good at what I did, but it wasn't honest work. We weren't doing anything illegal, but we're pushing stuff on people that didn't. We're fucking just calling random people and just pushing things that they don't need. And it got to a point where the last one that I had ended up ending in a fashion that I didn't really like. I remember it was payday, and it was already sketched. Like the FedEx would overnight checks to us, and they'd get there like right before the shift would end every Friday. And I remember this last Friday, the owner, I'm not going to say his name, but the owner called me. He's like, hey, man, there ain't no checks. I'm like, bro, I got to tell all these employees they got to wait for their check till tomorrow. He's like,
I was home.
No, there's not going to be checks tomorrow. There's no checks. I'm like, what are you talking about? They got another check coming for next week. He's like, there's no money. I'm like, so you let them work this whole shift and now there's no money? He's like, I got some cash for you. You got to come get it. I got some cash for you for the next 2 weeks. Come get it. He's like, dude, I don't know. You can tell them what you want. And I'm like, oh my God. So I remember that was the longest ride back to from there back. It was right next to Rudy's. If you guys know Rudy's on the 66. And I remember going in there and people could see it in my face when I got in. I just came and sat and I had a blunt and I rolled it up and I sat right in the middle of that sales floor and I fired up a blunt. And I remember all the sales agents just kind of turning around like, what the fuck's going on? They knew something was up. And they're like, John, why are you smoking in here? And I'm like, guys, hang up the phones. They're like, no, I got a couple of deals. I'm like, hang up the phones. And they're like, will you tell me what's going on with our checks, John? I know you're about to tell us our checks aren't here. I'm like, I'm not only going to tell you that, I'm going to tell you that they don't plan on paying you for this week or next week, and there's not going to be any checks. I was like, here's what you can do. I was like, those computers, I don't know, those computers are probably worth $100 a piece. And he had given me at the time, I think I was making $1,500. So he gave me $3,000 cash. I took the $3,000 cash. I think I had 20 reps in there, and I split it up between them and gave them all. I was like, he paid me, and I was supposed to take my money, and you guys are going to have the money. I remember paying them. They all probably got $150 or 100, whatever it was. And that feeling of like people calling me, knowing it wasn't me, but those were my friends. I was picking people up and bringing them. And I just remember that was like the real low point for me. And I remember it happened right around January. And I was like, perfect, fuck it, I'm going to go to school. So I started going to school. I had money stacked up. I was okay. And I got to about the end of January, and one of my wife's friend's husband called because we would hang out, and he was always balling. He knew I was a hustler. And then he knew that I was in between jobs. So I remember he called me. He's like, hey, man, I got this opportunity for you. I was like, I know you like to grind. He's like, it's recycling. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about, bro? I'm like, what do you mean recycling? Cans and boxes? He's like, no, man, it's not like that. It's like, I was like, nah, dude, I'm chilling, man. Boom. Hangs up. I remember probably 2 or 3 days went by, and then he calls me again. Doggy, listen. He's like, how about this? I got another job for you. You like gold? I'm like, yep. He's like, what about platinum? I'm like, yeah, you're talking to me now. He's like, you know how to do math? You know kilos and pounds and grams and ounces? You know how to add and subtract? I'm like, dude, what are you talking about, bro? He's like, all right, come with me now. Check something out. So I go up, and I remember going into the warehouse, and he brings me in, and he walks over, and there's this giant Gaylord box that's 4 feet by 4 feet tall, and it's just filled with circuit boards. And he grabs the circuit board out. He's like, what do you see? I'm like, I see a circuit board. He's like, what do you see? And I'm like, oh, there's fucking a lot of gold. And he's like, yeah, come here. And he looks over, and I remember that feeling when I looked over and I saw all this gold just sitting there. He had a box full of the CPU chips that were the chips that were just gold fingers. And I remember picking one up, and I'm like, my life changed. I'm like, nobody thinks about this. Nobody understands how much gold, platinum, and how much stuff is in there. And I remember doing it. I'm like, dude, this is... And he's like, yeah, so look, you could buy it by the pound and sell it by the pound. I'm like, you don't need to teach me how to do any of that. I'm okay with the metric system. I know how to do pounds. I know how to buy it for the low and sell it for the high. Let's do it. And I remember it was a breath of fresh air. I remember my first day was leap day. I started on February 29th. So I think it was probably 2016. And first couple years were it was so much coming in, and I didn't even think about it. I'm like, where's the broken computers at? I'm riding around looking for computer shops when I should have been trying to call J.C. Penney's or Walgreens or the big giant companies. So it took me a couple of years to kind of figure out what the real industry was all about. But now it's amazing, man. We work with a lot of big companies. Tico is one of our companies. We work with Homeland Security. So we actually are really big into data protection. So what we do is we'll go, for instance, for Tico, we'll go pick up from them 2 or 3 times a week. Like the other week, last week, we went and picked up about 400 laptops. So we go pick up all the material from them. We bring it back. And certain customers, we give back a profit share based on weight of what they give us. But we take care of their data, and we present them with a release of liability. It's basically a certificate of destruction, and then we get the assets to repurpose and remarket. So that's why they call me the laptop god. So a lot of companies, everybody thinks, oh, you just got junk. No, a lot of stuff we get is brand new in box. A lot of stuff is, we bought 500 computers for this new company that we were getting ready to start, and we only have 200 and everybody else works remote, and we have these other 300 surplus. A lot of them are, people have a computer that just sits at their desk, and they come in and touch it, they don't mess anything. So a lot of it's really good stuff, so we get a lot of really good quality stuff. And I'm able to sell and help out. We give away computers all the time to kids at schools. We always do the Great American Teach-In and Give Back. They actually helped out with the nonprofit and donated some computers so we could sell them for the nonprofit and raise some money. So it's really cool, man. It's an ever-growing industry, and it's just never going to stop. There's always going to be new technology. Yeah, so anybody out there, if you've got some electronics you need to properly get rid of and make sure that the bad guys don't get your data, man, shout out to Scrap Dizzle. I'll come take care of you.
Scrap Dizzle, yes, okay. I love it, man, because like you really turned, and that was the biggest thing for you, just like knowing you personally and knowing that you were killing it, in the telemarketing game, but also knowing that you didn't feel real good about it. No. You felt good that you could make money and provide, but
and still use my same hustle and adapt and move every single skill, the talking, the sales, the scales, the buying and selling, you know what I mean? So like I was able to transfer a lot of stuff that I did as in my youth to kind of put it all together and kind of just use this positive thing. And it's amazing. Like right now, the company I work for, shout out to E-Cycle and Silverback, they're amazing, and they work with me and my schedule, because the schedule I have with my son and his therapies is not conducive to an average work day. So they allow me to answer my phone and kind of work on the go and make sure I get what I need done, make sure I'm answering it, and they stay on me like, hey, I'm just making sure you didn't miss this and that. So they're a big part of this progression of me and my son and being able to do the other things that I do, because they allow me to provide and make a living with the minimal time that I have to be actually in the office. So a lot of time I'm having to work remote, or I'm on the phone, or I'm actually stepping out of one of my son's therapies to kind of answer, but I'm just glad to have that opportunity.
Absolutely. And just to be able to feel good about what you're doing from like a moral, ethical standpoint, but also ecological, because really and truly you're recycling.
No, 100%.
Yeah. So that's what's up, man. Now, the big new joint, right? I want you to be able to tell the world, our audience, what you got going on. Tell me what it's all about. I know what it's about. Tell them what it's about. And but most importantly, I think, is how people can get involved in terms of, information, inclusion. I love your motto, community through inclusion. But also, if somebody, because you have access to a lot of resources, I know that, people aren't aware of.
Oh yeah.
So I feel like you were really helping a lot of people with this, but this isn't my place to speak. I want you to put it in your words and tell them.
No, absolutely. And it is your story to tell. You're the vice president, my brother. You're part of the story. So for those of you who don't know, I have a son, John William. Shout out to my boy, Bobby Joby. That's my dude. He was born on November 24th, 2018, which is the day that I dropped that album that he's talking about, New Day. And that was, I always said I'm going to hold it until then, and I dropped it the day he was born. But yeah, it turns out he was, we found out at about 18 months that he was diagnosed with autism. And I remember it was kind of rough. I remember the first time my wife was kind of like, she gets into those holes sometimes and goes on online like a lot of us do, and did some research. And I remember her the first time she approached me with it and was like, hey, I think this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, she's like, I was like, I don't know, you're tripping. And it was just small little signs that to me, I was like, there's no way. But I guess, at the end of the day, I'm glad we didn't wait and hesitate. So a lot of people don't act on it and would rather say, no, not my son, not me. I did that once. And I said, no, dude, what are you talking about? Since he doesn't point with one finger, he points with his whole hand. You're telling me he has autism? Like, come on. So since he doesn't stack his blocks and he slaps him over, he has autism? Since he doesn't roll the car like this and he spins it? Well, no, those are just early indicator signs. And we were actually able to, I was about 18 months, and we actually this is my handshaking in life and knowing people who I know. We were actually the length of time that it takes to actually get in front of the very limited amount of doctors that are able to give you that diagnosis is incredibly long. Sometimes it's 6 months if you're real lucky. I've heard people who had to wait 18 months. And there's a lot going on in those times that you're not getting. Without that box checked, therapies are very expensive. And without that box checked, you're just kind of in limbo. So we were able to get him diagnosed at about 18 months and actually get him going into ABA therapy, which is something I'll talk about here in a second. But so I remember just sitting one time and I'm like, man, this is a lot. This is a lot of work. And I was like, this is my life now, though. This isn't something that I get to turn off. There isn't a switch. And I remember one of the richest people that I ever met. I always remember asking. I was like, hey, what's a couple pieces of advice? One of them I would never use. He's like, sometimes to get where you're going, you need to step on some people to get over there. That was one thing he told me, but I threw that out. But the other thing he told me was every single situation, bad or good, you could turn everything into an excuse or an opportunity. So I had that. I just remember him saying that. I'm like, this is my opportunity to. And I just remember the amount of stress that was involved with us doing all that initial research, because when nobody's ready for that. You know, when you're born, they're like, hey, here you go. There's a 1 in 40 or 1 in 50 chance that your son might be on the spectrum. So here you go, just in case. There's no playbook, so it just comes all at you all at once, and there's no real playbook out there. There's a bunch of stuff, and everybody will tell you this and that, but it's really hard to decipher through all that and navigate through the insurances. And shout out to my wife, Stephanie, because she is an animal, and she is really, really amazing at doing that. She handled everything and is able to find out all these different things that were available and getting them into different places. And we're getting scholarships now that we use to cover some of his stuff that people don't know that are available. So that's what she works on. She's put together a bunch of resources. And we're actually revamping the site now that's actually going to include a lot of this to be automated to where you can actually sign up through things directly on our site. Instead of just clicking in links, we're actually going to have tutorials that we're doing. But yeah, so we started the Autism Acceptance All-Stars. It actually basically started as just a regular basketball game. We did a pickup game, and we weren't a nonprofit at the time. We weren't really up and running, but I was like, you know what? Everybody wants to know. Let's go ahead and just throw a game. You know what I mean? And we'll raise some money and we'll donate it to an autism foundation. And we did the game. We did the jerseys, and it was a really big turnout. And my big thing was the events that I throw are not just for people that are on the spectrum in the autism community. It's community through inclusion. And here's the thing: when we were in school, there was always that class. Everybody had the class with the special needs students up in the front, but nobody told us about anything. They didn't. They tried to hide it, and that they had their own time at lunch. They had their schedule. If they moved, they never moved out of class, so they were only in their class. But nobody educated. Nobody said anything, and that's why we, as our generation, we didn't get the knowledge. And it's not that we avoided it and didn't take to it. Nobody presented it to us. There was no conversations of what's up with Johnny. Oh, Johnny's special. Okay, well, the conversations are now, okay, Johnny's special. How can we be involved with Johnny? How can we make Johnny included into what we're doing? So that's kind of where the basketball game comes in, is we like to educate the younger. So we had a lot of kids that we start everything with, hey, let's check out this video and just watch a little bit and sending out information. It's like, I wish I had that kind of education. I personally did, because my mother worked in mental health. So when I would get off school at Lakewood Elementary, she worked at Boley. So I actually would go and sit down and be around people that had schizophrenia or different things. So I was kind of brought up around it, but a lot of people don't know much. So it's about educating and starting young and not having that weird, awkward, okay, there's the kids over there. It's more of high five Johnny when you see him, you know? Yeah. These are the things that you don't want to do around Johnny because they might trigger him. Because nobody told us anything like that. And I'm still learning as the day goes. And there's no answer for any of this. So you'll read a lot of stuff online that'll tell you this, and it's supposed to be like that. And so one thing, for instance, noise. Well, one thing that you always hear about is like they always have to have their headphones. They can't have noise. They get real. Well, that's not everybody. I remember one time, the story about my son, we had him in a stroller, and we went to, I forget the name of the fall festival. What's the name of it? It's in Pinellas Park, the big one they do every year. Well, anyway, I had my son in there, and I remember we were going to meet one of my wife's friends, and they were by the live band, rock band playing, and I remember pulling up, and I started freaking out. I'm like, damn, my son's going to hate this. And I start doing it. He starts getting in his chair and moving around. I'm like, I'm sorry, John. And I went to unbuckle him and pick him up and to walk away. And that boy took a beeline to the front of the damn stage. He went right to the front of the stage and started dancing and jumping up and down. And I'm like, okay, so there is no correct answer for anything that airs. There's some typical cases, but everything's day by day. But that was an amazing time to see that. No, I don't know anything and nobody knows anything, but here are some resources for you. When we did finally get that diagnosis, the doctor said, hey, just so you know, the only thing that this prevents him from doing in life is joining the U.S. military. And I'm sure that might change eventually, but so anybody that's scared to get that diagnosis, it does nothing but provide you with resources. And they've done a lot in the autism community. Before, they had breakdowns, they had levels, and if you're in this level, then you're qualified for this much coverage. If you're this, and it was just, now it's the full spectrum. If you got one toe on it, or if you're fully and you're immobile and you're basically the full end of the spectrum, everybody gets the same treatment and coverage and is covered under the same things under insurance, which is hard to navigate. So we had, like, for instance, when John turned 5, it was a big thing because the Medicaid stuff doesn't start covering stuff because he's supposed to start going into school. So the therapies that he's going, he stopped covering. So I ended up having to bring him out of his therapy for a couple weeks and get him switched over to a private insurance. But so that's the thing we try to do, is like all these super crazy questions that you parents have and we'd like to provide, like, hey, listen, it's cool, breathe. We answer the phone sometimes when people call, and we're just the ear to listen to them talk. And like, sometimes we don't have the answers for them. Like, hey, I don't have an answer for that, but let me see what I can do. So it's just an ongoing thing. We've got a lot of projects that we're working on right now. We're doing it's going to be out before it's going to be available for Christmas. We're doing our first it's a children's book, but it's going to be designed by some people that are on the spectrum and also by kids that are not on the spectrum, because that's the community through inclusion.
Yes.
We want that mix. We want Tim, who's not on the spectrum, to go and sit and talk to his friends that they're over doing their social media and TikToks, and they ask him, well, what are you doing over there? Well, I'm doing this. Well, what is that for? Well, it's for this project called A is for Autism, B is for Bubbles. Well, what's autism? Why are you doing that? Well, and then have those conversations. Now the conversations are coming from the peers, and you're having the youth talk to each other about this, and it's not you watching one little video saying, Timmy's on the spectrum, you need to be away from No, you get to hear full conversations, and it's a lot. There's a lot more people that every time we set up an event, everybody that comes to the table always has somebody they know or somebody in their family. And I think that can go about the same thing much. So, yeah.
So, I love what you're doing, bro. I mean, clearly, I'm on the team. What I want to know is, like, is the website active right now?
Website's always active, and you asked how can people get involved. So we're getting. You go to the website, which is theaaas.org, or just look up Autism Acceptance All-Stars. The very first button you see that says Become an All-Star, well, that's your best way to link up with us, because that's where you can provide us your contact information. And in the notes, if you want to volunteer, it'll have a section right out if you'd like to volunteer. But yeah, we're sending out newsletters. If you don't want to give your phone number, all that, we just need a way to get a hold of you. So if you want to get a text message from us, or if you want to get an email, just check your box. And stay active. We don't really need you. We don't need donations. The best donation is your ears and your eyes and sharing the message from us. I'd much rather somebody share and share our page and talk about it than give us money, because that money sometimes goes to operational costs. And right now there's not a lot coming in. So I mean, there's not a lot of overhead though at the same time. So our help that we need is through spreading the message and word with us. So.
And so, do you already have like active resources for people on the site, or is that something you're?
No, there are links on the site, but it's basically you're just getting a PDF. We're actually going to make it to where it's more. You don't have to leave the site, and if there's questions on there, we can actually answer it, and we're actually going to be facilitating some of the stuff. But
so you are the resource to a certain extent for people to put them on the right path for additional resources.
We are no BS. Here, let's cut through all the crap, because there's a lot of crap. There's a lot of this could happen, you got to go here. There's a lot of sales, and I have a degree in marketing, so I understand it, and people will send you on different trails. But yeah, we kind of cut through the tape and say, here, this is what you need. Call this number. If you're in this county, this is the number you need to call. these are the key words that you need to say. There's certain things that you need to say, and there's certain things that that they will try to go. And so, just like you said, we are the resource.
Yes,
we are the resource.
I love it. So one more time with that website.
The AAAS.org. Our Autism Acceptance All Stars. You can Google it.
THE.
Yep, THEAAAS.org. So 3 A's and an S.
3 A's and an S. Okay, yes. So y'all got it. That's the resource right there. So
become an all-star today, man. Become an all-star.
Become an all-star. You already know I'm an all-star. You know what I mean? I'm an all-star. You know what I mean?
You can become an all-star too, man. Yes. Get you some of this rainbow paint splatter, baby.
Yes, get you some of this drip. This all-star drip. So I just want to thank you for coming out, bro.
I thank you for getting me out, man. It's hard. And shout out to the boss lady for pushing me. I always like to overthink things. She's like, you need to go. He asked you to do this stuff, and you need to get out of the house.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you.
Shout out to Steph and Little John. So. Man, I needed to get out here, and it feels good to be back in and having things recorded and bringing up some of these memories and getting the juices flowing and all that good stuff.
So, anything that you want to say while we, you got this stage, you got this microphone, this camera, anything you want to tell these people that they should know about you or what they can do to support you, or anything that you got cooking right now?
Man, support. This ain't about me. This is about the movement. This is about Live Struggle Legacy. That's why we're here. I'm a guest on your show, so what you could do, you guys are showing me. Support this, which, by the way, Michael Paul is the vice president of the charity, too. We didn't even mention that part. So definitely check in with that. But other than that, man, tap in with the Live Struggle Legacy. Share it. I'm going to definitely hopefully get it a little boost here. I got a little bit of old head fan bases that I can share and try to get a little movement. But yeah, man, click, like, subscribe, play it in your earphones, run it. I'm still running late. I'm still a couple episodes back, but I'll catch up. I'm almost there.
So we have the brand new season, and just real quick, because I know you're not that active in your music, but while we got this camera and this limelight, you do have an album out there on streaming platforms. What's the easiest way to search on the streaming platform to be able to listen to some of this music?
HardWhite, which is one word, which was, I had to learn the hard way that I should have been branding that a lot better because I never really distinguished that. And a lot of people, if you search HardWhite with a space, you're going to get the Nicki Minaj song. You're not going to find me. So it's HardWhite, one word. But if you go to, it's hashtag New Day.
See, that's how I was able to find it.
Yeah, you can find it anywhere. If you put in hashtag New Day, I pop up first for everything on all the platforms, and even probably on Google, I'm up there. But yeah, it's got all the bangers, man. Who do I got on there? Frank Lenny, some Skrilla, oh man, there's a song there with 14 people on it, guys, just so you know. There is a song with 14
some bangers on there, and it's worth a listen. So, it ain't old music. If you never heard it, it's going to be
brand new. My boy!
Yes. So, all right. So, this is a wrap. We got HardWhite, Mr. Scrap Dizzle. You know what I mean? My brother from another Autism Autism Acceptance All Stars.
There's already an Autism All Star, so we kind of had to,
Well, I know it better than anybody, but trying to come off the dome with it, I want to make sure we send everybody to the right place so they know what to do to be able to support, to get involved. But I think most importantly, for resources for people.
Absolutely.
Because I know people who have kids on the spectrum and they are alone. They're having to, one person's having to quit a job to be full-time. The other person having to put in extra work, and they don't have these resources to be able to get tutors and all that. So I think that's like the most valuable thing that you could be providing for people is the education. Number one, for inclusion, which I think is instrumental in teaching, in preventing bullying and whatnot. You know what I mean? For our other kids that need to understand that you need to be informed about the people around you and what people are going through that you may not have that education on. So much love and respect. It's a wrap, y'all. This is season 2, the very first episode. So if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification button, drop a comment. If you have a business and you would like to promote it, holler at me. We are taking sponsorships, right? We got to pay these bills, y'all, if we're going to keep coming at you with new content. So if you've been following us for a while and you want to promote a brand, a service, a business, Holler at us, man. If you just want to support, you can always donate. You could go to the www.livestrugglelegacy.com website, and there's an actual donation tab. But, you know, we want to support you like you support us, so, you know, we could work something out. We could do a custom ad. We could just drop your name, your business on the podcast, however you see fit. I appreciate y'all checking in, man. It's Live Struggle Legacy. We building pyramids.
Live struggle legacy. It's a whole movement.